Hey, what's going on, good people out there in YouTubian land? This is the bad man, Mama Jamma himself, the bad wolf. What's going on? Wishing every one of you guys a positive blessing, light, life, energy, safety, and may any enemy against you, including mine, be made your footstool. All right? May they not prosper against you. That being said, let's take a look at what we got coming up. So this particular video is about certificates of non-citizen nationality. Now, I've done another video on this one before. But once again, we like to, I don't know, show them that we know what we're talking about here. And like to show you guys how they like to try to hide, shade the information. Now, the talk locked and drop it like it's hot information that destroys all of them across the board, even those traitors, people, persons, states, anybody in whatever uniform they wear, that there's no such thing as a national. We've displayed it on the GPO Styles Manual, section 5.23, under nationalities. You're done, son. We proved it. Department of State, on their Foreign Affairs Manual, FAM, section 505.2, passport endorsements, number 9, code 9. I think it's CFR 2251.2, nationality. We've proven it. Don't tread on me. But let's see what they have to say here. The Department of State occasionally, we know it's more than that because everybody who does my process sends one out, so we know it's way more than that. Receives requests for certificates of non-citizen nationality status. Now, looking at the word non-citizen national, legally, non-citizen cancels. It means you're not a citizen. So then what is left legally? The word national. So it should say request for certificates of being a national pursuant to section 341 of immigration nationality. This is why if you do your SS5, stop telling them at the Social Security Administration you want to change your status. You cannot change your status with the Social Security Administration. They're using that to then deny and block you. You already have this under 8 U.S.C. 1101, 22A and B. You can be either a citizen or a national. You were born as a national in the private, then you obtain the U.S. citizen status. You have it. You're just updating the record. So stop telling them this changes your status. It does not. Going on. As defined by the INA, listen to what I'm saying here. It's all the people, even the department, who tries to say there's no such thing. What does it say here? All U.S. citizens are U.S. nationals. Period. Right here. This is also under 8 U.S.C. 1101, 22A and B. What did I stutter? It says all U.S. citizens are U.S. nationals. How is that possible? Because you were born a national first. The root word in national is native, natural, N-A-T. You were born natural before you became a U.S. citizen. You have both. But only a relatively small number of persons acquire U.S. nationality without becoming a U.S. citizen. So what they're legally saying here is you have both. But there are very few people who are born in the outlying areas, islands, and whatever else, who, because of our treaties and whatever else, are nationals by law, and they never utilize or become a resident, a resident, legal person. We did this when we were kids. That's why it says all U.S. citizens are U.S. nationals. But what can we glean from this section? Well, if all citizens are also U.S. nationals, and yet they're talking here above about certificates of non-citizen nationality, that means a non-citizen national is the same as a U.S. national, has the same rights for legal purposes as a U.S. citizen. They can be construed to be one and the same. Though they are legally separate, you can be either or. This is what it says in the Foreign Affairs Manual in the endorsement section under Code 09. It brings all of these together. So stop lying to the people. Period. I used a lot of swear words in there in my mind, but you know, trying to be cool. Be cool. Okay. So with that being said, it says here under this section of INA defines that the term national. So now we're just using the word national. Over here it says U.S. national. Up here it says non-citizen nationality or national. So these are all relatively the same things. This is why we can claim them. They have to allow us to do that. It says that this is a person owing permanent allegiance to a state. Lowercase s, the organic. On Cornell law, it's a capitalized S. And then they're talking about the District of Columbia. By this definition, it just says somebody owing allegiance to a state. Well, to Florida state, not state of Florida. That's a U.S. citizen. To Florida state as a Floridian. Ergo, I am a national. Per GPO Styles Manual, section 5.23. It says the following forms will be used to describe the natives of the states or of the several states. Floridian, New Yorker. You don't hear people from the Cherokee Nation going, oh, well, I'm a Floridian Cherokee. No, they're talking about us who were born there. They're born as Cherokee and Apache and Creole and whatever else they got, going on. Blackfoot, Blackfeet. They're talking about Americans. So let's go on. In that same section, they then go on, it says, provides that the term national of the United States. So if you are a national of the United States, this includes all U.S. citizens. You can be either or. You have both. Stop messaging me saying, can I make you a national? You already are. I'm not going to try to take some claim that you have it. So let's see what else it says. As well as persons, okay, so they're extending it, though not citizens of the United States, owe permanent allegiance to the United States. Now, when you look this word up, United States, and this whole code under Cornell Law, 8 U.S.C. 1101, 22B, it says here the term United States means in the geographical sense, in the continental sense. And when you read it, it says Alaska, Alabama, not state of Alaska, not state of Alabama, but Alaska, Alabama, because those are two separate things. And here, non-citizen nationals. So just because we're on it right now, let's go and see that though. I made another videos, but let's do it. GPO, style, manual. You can use 2000, 2016, doesn't really matter. Here, I'll use 2000. Okay, I'm gonna search Texan, Texan. Okay, let's blow up the screen. Nationalities. Right? 5.23, in designating the natives of the several states. Wolf, why would they say the several states? Because they're talking about the organic, the living, not the corporate version, There's two different jurisdictions, two different entities in the same spot. The organic Florida state and the corporate inorganic de facto state of Florida. Why don't they know this, Wolf? Because this is what they teach in the legal department. Your average counter, low-level functionary doesn't know this information. I fight the legal departments and win. Why? Because they know what I'm talking about. The person over the counter, don't bother arguing with them. Print this form, print this page off for your passport, which comes in my passport explanatory statement kit already. But if you're born in Texas, you're a Texan. That means you are a native of the organic, constitutional, continental United States of America. Unfringed flagpole mounted to the ground, American flag, as a national. All right. So now that we made that clear, let's see. What else do we want to look at? Yeah, no, I got tons of tabs open. Okay, let's get back to the main screen here. So they're telling you if you want a certificate, you have to request it. But if you read on to further law, they're basically saying, well, we don't have to do this for you. You should know who you are. Operate that way. We don't get enough requests to make this a normal thing. So it's only if we decide. So make your own. But they know in doing this that when you try to go to any normal department, say, hey, look, I made my own. Here it is. Say, we need something official. So they leave you in purgatory. Section 308 of the INA confers U.S. nationality. They can confer it, but not U.S. citizenship on persons in outlying possessions. Now, here's another little trap. They go, the term outlying possessions is defined by this code as America, Samoa, and Swain Islands. It says here, no other statutes define any other territories or any other states as outlying possessions. They added this after watching my videos. Outlying possessions, when used here, they're saying only means these two things, these two places. So let's see what we can find. But then it goes on, 308, section 302. So here's the catch. Here's the jump. Look at the jump. They're saying if you use this code, it only means those two. But down here it says, in addition to section 308 of the INA, section 302, a difference. So this is a different section of public law, 94 and 241, provides for certain inhabitants of the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana, Article 3 of the Covenant, to opt for non-citizen national status. So they're telling you here, without telling you, that there are other sections you can use to prove who and what you are. If you use this section and this definition, they're going to say, no, there are no outlying areas. There are no other territories or any states, lowercase s here in that code. So they try to leave you in purgatory. But they just told you right here, there's also the Northern Mariana Islands. So there are more than just America, Samoa, and Swain. There are more. As the department has received few requests, there is no justification for the creation of a non-citizen national certificate. Then why do you talk about it? Because they want you to take the citizenship test or the citizenship nationality test. Because depending on how you answer that, and I already made a video on it, then they will provide it. Because you're forcing them to look at your standing. But in general, this is their way of basically saying, well, we don't really want to do that. Why? And why don't they want to do it? Because designing certain documents that include anti-fraud mechanisms was seen as inefficient expenditure to resources. Yeah, like you guys don't blow money on totally stupid other things. Yeah, okay. Therefore, but check it out. The department determined that for those who would be eligible to apply for such a certificate may instead apply for a U.S. passport that would delineate and certify their status. Look what they say here, as a national. Booyah! So the passport is a way to prove that you are a national, but not a citizen of the United States. So they throw in this up here to throw you off, but by law, they have to provide remedy or it's a lawsuit. And they know they'll lose. So they give you your one little line here to get out. Because look, they call it a national here, right? They didn't say non-citizen national. If you look on the bottom of your DS-11, it says you certify under penalty of perjury that I'm either a U.S. citizen or a non-citizen national. So I was right when I said the term non-citizen cancels because you're not a citizen, which leaves then just you are a national. This is how the legal department reads and learns and does things. It's how they understand things. They didn't want to call it just a national on the passport because that's obvious. You'll be checking it off. So to hide it, and we'll say to legally cover all their bases, they call it a non-citizen national. So it goes farther, covers more people. But we have the rights here as a national, and they just proved it right here. Thank you, Department of State. But not as a citizen. So then they go on because then they have to throw the fire back out. If the person believes he or she is eligible under the law as a non-citizen national, and the person complies with the provisions of this specific one, he or she may apply for a passport at a passport agency or acceptance. Well, you can apply. They didn't say you can't apply any other way. But if this fits, you can use it. If it doesn't fit, you can still apply for the same thing, but not with this code. When applying, applicants must execute a form DS-11. So it's the same form. And show your documentary proof of their non-citizen national status as well as their identity. This is why we use the explanatory statement, which bridges all of it, and the GPO Styles Manual. And we included the Foreign Affairs Manual information and the Code of Federal Regulations. I think it's 22 CFR 51.2 and 51.3. But under this one, 341, a person who claims to be a national but not a citizen of the United States may apply to the Secretary of State for the application. And you need to provide it. But they tell you, if you read the code and go on Cornell law, that they basically are not going to give it to you. Unless a foreign country entity, their court, cough, cough, gem drop, requests it on your behalf or for you, and then they will send it to that court directly, not to you. I like how they itemize this now to make it clear. Tells me they watch my videos. Good job. Now look here, the term state with a capital S includes the District of Columbia. This is how clever these people are when writing their legal departments. But here under section 302, it says any person. Let's see what they say. Remember, they always have to provide you with a remedy. Any person who becomes a citizen of the United States solely by virtue of this section 301, applying to those born or residing in Northern Mariana Islands, made within 6 months after the effective date of the section. So this is just one. So they're giving you an example. You can do this same oath, which is what we do, but they're using this section. There's other sections. So I'm just going to take the one where it talks about where is it? In section 101A 29 of Immigration and Nationality Act, outlying possessions means of the United States. Okay, so here what they're doing, they're saying this whole term. So this whole term together, that's why it's in quotations, means just Samoa and Swain. So let's see what we can find. Now, if I was really going to go to bat, I would look up the entire Immigration and Nationality Acts and read every single one of them. So if you use this code in your declaration and you're not from America, Samoa, or Swain, you're trying to claim that you're a national, they're going to say, well, nope, not according to that exact code, which is why we don't use 8 U.S.C. 1101-21, because that means D.C. We use 8 U.S.C. 1101-22B. You have to be specific with your codes. Here's what they don't want you to do is to go to their definition in the declaration and find what actually applies. Okay, this is actually not the immigration. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just saying if you feel so moved to beat them at their own game, Immigration and Nationality Act, INA. Oh, looky, I got hooky. INA 301, 8 U.S.C. 1401. This is the code you would want to use right here. Top of the morning to you, governor. Nationals and citizens of the United States at birth. You would use this code in place, which is one of the ones we've always talked about, 8 U.S.C. 1401A. Underneath that, I'm applying for a national certificate or blah, blah, blah. There it is. Nationals, but not citizens at birth. So let's see. Then they say, yeah, 308. So they give you an example of these, but they don't. If you want them, you have to go through these and read. Look, certificate of naturalizations, revocation of your naturalization. Don't use that one unless you're really, 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 really sure. certificate of diplomatic or consular officer of United States as a total loss of American nationality. Well, it's funny how they say American and then nationality. Why not American citizenship? Because those are separate things. And if you use this one, loss of American nationality, you're then getting rid of your American nationality. You have to be very careful. That's why we don't even do that. We don't do that on our, well, from how I teach you guys. If you're sure you're done, you can use some of these, but I'm just saying be very careful. They will hold you to it. I have a very wealthy person who's done this, and we had to figure out remedies. Oath of renunciation and allegiance. So you can make an allegiance or you can renunciate. It's all right here, guys. Look over here then, but then they go former citizens losing what? Citizenship. So they know there's a difference. They tell it to you right here. Nationals and citizens of the United States at birth. Here's the whole section. 1401A, person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction. Oh, looky. Good old Wikipedia. They talk about me one moment and then another one, they totally help me out. An outlying territory or separate area is a state territory, geographically separated from its parent territory. So it's a state territory separated from the parent. Outlying territory. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, look, then they're talking about the political divisions. The United States total territory includes a subset of political divisions. The United States of America is a federal republic consisting of 50 states and a federal district, a capital city, and 5 major territories. So they're telling you all right here. A map of the United States consisting of 50 states, comma, and federal districts. The state of, and 5 inhabited territories. Look, Alaska, comma, Hawaii. So they're not going to put all of them in there, but they've got some, let you know. And the territories are shown at different scales. The Aleutian Islands, uninhabited northern Hawaiian Islands. Then over here, first level, the state, Commonwealth, federal district, territories, and Commonwealth. Indian areas. Really should be Native American, but And they also have unincorporated areas. There's Alabama, but I don't see state of Alabama. So there's a different thing going on here. This is how they abridged the Constitution. They created their own jurisdictions. So here the states are basically saying we're sovereign. So you've got the sovereign territories. And then you've got the continental, but they're all under the subservience of the Constitution, except for the District of Columbia, because they're not ours. But we are family. They're in the family. So they have formed their own political subdivisions, state of Arkansas, state of Florida. Got the continuous United States. So let's ask Chat GPT. Let's just see what it's got to say. Point out as many point out as many legal reasons using federal law as to why there is a legal difference between Florida state, which is organic, and the state of Florida as a corporation. Oh, there we go. Oh, oh, rubs left nipple. That's good. Come on, Chat GPT. All right. So let's see here. I want to make sure that we get this. So now you guys see, I just did this. I did not. You guys, we're in real time. So we're gonna play it and see what it says.
The idea that Florida exists as both an organic state and a corporation is a claim often linked to fringe legal theories. In
Now,
mainstream
hold
U.S.
on.
legal
Let's
thought, there is only one state of Florida, which is a political entity within the
so
United
they said
States.
often it's linked
Florida
to
is not
fringe
legally
legal
considered a
theories.
corporation, but there are legal reasons why the state, as a governmental entity, might be distinguished from a private corporation. Here's a breakdown of the legal principles under federal law that clarify why these distinctions exist.
So there are distinctions.
1. Sovereignty of the state. 10th Amendment. The U.S. Constitution's 10th Amendment reserves powers to the states, making them sovereign entities in certain areas of governance. This means the state of Florida, like other U.S. states, exercises inherent governmental powers that private corporations do not possess. States have the power to enact laws for public health, safety, and welfare under their police powers, which are not vested in corporations. Hummer 2. Public versus private entities. U.S. Code Title 28, Section 332, Diversity of Citizenship. The federal government recognizes the legal distinction between a citizen of a state and corporations. This distinction ensures that individuals and governmental entities are separate from corporate legal entities for purposes like jurisdiction in civil lawsuits. A state like Florida exists as a public entity with the responsibility of governance, whereas corporations are private entities created for profit or non-profit purposes with limited liability for shareholders. Hunter 3. Legal personality of the state. 11th Amendment. The concept of state sovereign immunity under the 11th Amendment means that states cannot be sued in federal court without their consent. Corporations, however, do not enjoy this level of immunity and can be sued in federal or state court. States possess sovereign immunity because they are not equivalent to private corporations. They are not private business ventures, but political entities charged with upholding the public good.
So they are political entities. Did you hear that?
4. Taxation and corporate law. Internal Revenue Code, IRC. Under federal tax law, states and corporations are treated very differently. States, as governmental bodies, are generally not subject to federal income tax, whereas corporations are. The state of Florida operates under different fiscal responsibilities compared to corporations, which have shareholders and tax liabilities under the Internal Revenue Code, Title 26, U.S.C. Florida's budget is funded by state taxation, federal funds, and other public revenues, not private investment or stock. 5. Constitutional basis of states. States, including Florida, are constitutional entities with defined boundaries and functions under the U.S. Constitution, specifically Article 4, Section 3, which governs the admission of new states. The state of Florida's government operates under the Florida State Constitution. Private corporations, on the other hand, are governed by corporate charters under state corporation laws, not federal laws, making their legal foundation entirely different from that of a state government.
There you go.
6. Public versus private accountability. Governmental entities like the state of Florida must operate in accordance with public law and are held accountable through democratic mechanisms, e.g., elections. Corporations are accountable to shareholders and are regulated by corporate and securities laws. Federal Administrative Procedure Act. Public entities like the state of Florida must follow strict procedural rules for rulemaking and decision-making, unlike private corporations, which are governed by internal bylaws and policies subject to corporate law. 7. Federal recognition of states. Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution. The Supremacy Clause establishes that the U.S. Constitution and federal laws are the supreme law of the land, and this applies to states like Florida. Private corporations are not subject to this constitutional hierarchy in the same way. Their legal authority comes from incorporation under state law, not constitutional recognition. 8. Legal capacity to govern. A state has the power to legislate, enforce laws, and adjudicate through its courts, established by the state constitution and federal recognition. Corporations cannot legislate or enforce laws. Their powers are limited to the private sector.
Okay. So it's
Purely as creations of law for private purposes. Summary: the state of Florida is a constitutional entity with sovereign powers derived from the U.S. Constitution and its own state constitution. Its legal framework is fundamentally different from that of a corporation, which is a private entity created by individuals or groups under state corporate law.
what are the differences between Florida? Oh, it's not even typing.
Code, tax law, and Supreme Court precedents. These distinctions are not simply administrative, but are rooted in the nature of state sovereignty and governance, as opposed to private, profit-driven enterprises.
Florida state and as written by a legal department showing a legal and separate distinction. So they go on to say this is not a recognized and mainstream U.S. legal theory. In other words, they don't normally talk about this. That's all that they're saying. So it says here they refer to the same political party. Okay, that would be true, but Florida, Florida in the organic, the real land, it's Florida. State of Florida is a corporation. It's an entity. Those are not the same thing, though they represent each other and how it's being used, but one is geographical and the other one's corporate. It's an entity. The state of Florida is doing business. They're making money. They're administrating over the public. This is not the land. They deal with things on the land. So here, I like it says, why no legal distinction exists. Okay, we'll get to that. Idea that Florida or any state is a corporation with a distinct legal status is incorrect. Okay. All right. And then they have to throw in all the common, sovereign, blah, blah. Okay. All right. So let's check this out. So with that being said, you just seen it. It's trying to cover it up or it doesn't know. All right. What is the state of Florida EIN? An EIN number, Florida, is a government issued number that IRS uses to identify specific businesses. So Florida state has an EIN. They are doing specific business. That's a corporation. Now, legally, they could say it's an unincorporated. Okay. But we know it's not. Or what, let me say this correctly. It might not be an INC. Let's see. Let's hold on. So let's ask it. Let's not assume. Okay. Not seeing anything blowing my skirt up. Super obvious here. So, but it says, look, division of corporations. So are you telling me that the state of Florida creates corporations, but they themselves are not a corporation? But yet, right here it says an EIN, Florida, is a government issued number that the IRS uses to identify specific businesses. So they're doing a business. They're doing a trade or business in the United States. Okay, let's jump back over to chat. Okay. Is the state of Florida incorporated? Question mark. It says no, the state of Florida is not incorporated in the same way that private entities or corporations are. Okay, but it says here Florida as a sovereign state. If it's a sovereign state, then why do they have to conform to the U.S. Constitution? So they're not completely sovereign. So here it says sovereign states are not incorporated. Instead, they are established as part of the political system. So the state of Florida is a political system, but they have an EIN. But it says the state itself is not a corporation. Okay. So if state of Florida is not a corporation, but they are part of the political system to serve and govern their citizens, so then it's a membership. So then how do they have jurisdiction unless you give it to them? Why are they then? It says here, it derives its powers from the U.S. Constitution. So they're subservient to it. It says here that it's a sovereign government. Oh, so they don't like the word, but then they use it here. That exists as a political entity. See what I'm saying? See how they take you round and round? Do political entities have EIN? EIN numbers. A political organization must have its own employer identification number. Okay. So we know that these political organizations have to have an employer identification number. So now let's ask it, what is an employer identification number? An employer identification number is also known as a federal tax identification number and is used to identify a business entity. Now, notice it does not say corporation. So we'll give them that aspect. If you want to be technical, it does not say that. But we know the state of Florida has an EIN. So it's a business entity. Okay. So what is the legal definition of a business entity? A business entity is a legal structure through which business is conducted. It can include. So is the state of Florida a sole proprietorship? No, that's one person. A partnership, two or more partners own the state of Florida to do business with an EIN. Could be. Dun, dun, dun. A business entity can be construed as a corporation. So it could be that one too. Could also be a company. So a gathering of people specifically with objectives and goals, shared goals. It could be that. Or it could be a limited liability company, which is a corporation. Now we know that they've incorporated. That's why there's a difference between Florida State and state of Florida. ChatGPT does not read through all of the America's jurisprudence, all of the code, all the things, and you can tell instantly because I even asked the question. If I'm just asking a question about it, it should be just telling me this is all I could find with what, but it jumped right to, oh, well, this is part of fringe. This is not normally talked about. This is sovereign, blah, blah, blah. See how it's biased? But as I went through the track, you can see there's a link. But then it trails off to say, well, but as a business entity, it could be any one of these. And that's how I leave it. But we know that they've all incorporated. All right, so let's take a quick look back. All right. How about this? When did the state of Wisconsin incorporate? What year? So their statehood was 1848. But then they also have creation of Wisconsin Territory since 1788. This is when they were completely organic. They joined the Union as a legal entity. All capitalized name, 1848. So let's see if chat will say the same thing or see if it'll try to curve that. When did Wisconsin incorporate? Once again, Wisconsin is not incorporated in it says in the way a business or corporation is. So they're just saying there's a different process. That's what they're saying. So it's not to be construed as a normal corporation, but it says it's not incorporated in the way a business or a corporation is. Listen to what it's saying. It's not incorporated in the way. So it's not saying that it's absolutely not. It is, but it's not done in the way a business or a normal corporation is. This because when we incorporate, we go right to the state. And then there's that jurisdiction underneath it. They went right to the federal government and got an EIN. There's a difference there. So this is why a lot of them will say, oh, it's not that way. So the idea of states being incorporated is based on a misunderstanding of legal. Well, explain it. Okay, so let's do this. Explain legally this statement. Okay, so if states are sovereign entities, then and they have an EIN, what are they? If they're not a corporation, a business entity, and we've seen what business entities can be. See how it just keeps going round and round? Okay. Lastly, let's take a look at one last thing here. So it would seem like they're saying, though it's basically the same thing, they don't refer to it as incorporating, even though they've got an EIN, which is for doing business, which, let's see here, is an EIN for doing business in the United States. Now, I'm going to agree with them a little bit here, and I'll explain why. Because my micronation is unincorporated, so it's not a corporation, but I am able to do business tax exempt because I formed it into a business entity. So what this basically is saying here is state of Florida is itself not it's a business entity, but it is not a corporation in how we look at normal corporations, but yet it's doing business. And under the term business entity, it could be one of any of those things, including a corporation. So they kind of trail it off. We know that they have an EIN. We know that EIN is for doing business. So the state of Florida is an entity that's formed legally to do business and govern, but they're also considered sovereign. So they are one of those structures. And the other states, state of, are also operating as one of those structures. But they are registered to the federal government, which means they are subservient to the Constitution and the American people, unless you are operating as a member of theirs in the public. Otherwise, in the private, they are something different. But see, here's the thing. The law states that when any entity is doing business and generating profit, they then have been legally reduced to the status of a corporation. Let's see if I can find that, and then I'll let you guys go. Where a government is doing business, they are reduced to the status of a corporation. Now, this was in case law on the Supreme Court or federal level. United States is a federal corporation, says U.S. code. So, okay, so if the United States is a federal corporation, under Title 28 of the U.S. code, number 15, United States means what? A federal corporation. Dun, dun, dun. The Congress of the United States of America created a corporation and gave it the name United States to, all right, this likely occurred in 1871, created a municipal government for the District of Columbia. If the phrase appears in all caps, the United States is then a corporation. If it's an upper and lower, it's likely a federal government, but only the government, not the 50 states. The upper and lowercase version is short for United States. Let's get out of the way. See, upper and lower case, the United States federal government. All uppercase, United States corporation. United States, when used geographically, means District of Columbia and the territories. In the tax code, United States is not a geographical reference because it's not physically there. The United States of America is a name for the alliance and the union of the 50 states. Organic land. So they created a political subdivision. Now I'm going to do a video on this part right here. So we'll leave that for now. And then on this side, it says send a postcard non-domestic without the United States. This has worked. We've done this with mail. There's a difference in it. So, conclusion. Did they incorporate? No. But they created a business entity that operates like a corporation, and so it's treated as such. They pay taxes, they gather taxes. They're not 100% sovereign because the federal government can come in and shut anything that they do down, so they're not completely sovereign. They gave up that right to be a part of the union. They can't leave, they can't secede, so they're not sovereign. If you're sovereign, you can come and go as you want. They can't leave. California was talking about it, Texas was talking about it. They can't leave. If only they knew what I know. They are a part of the federal corporation now. So are the states underneath them corporate? Not in the traditional sense that we think of it. They are business entities that, though by law, once again, I'll repeat this, if they operate like corporations, they are then construed as to be one. But they themselves got an EIN, which means they could be a sole prop, partnership, an LLC, a corporation, or a business entity. How do I know that last part? Because that's what my government that I created operates the same way. But I'm not subservient to the federal governments in the way that they have to be. But that's also why they said there can be no more states of the union. You can't create any more and operate as a sovereign state like that. They won't let any more non-corporations come in. Off the cuff, yes. They are corporations. They're corporate entities. But I will say this. I know that like Pennsylvania operates still as a commonwealth, and that's not exactly a corporation, but it's a business entity. See what I'm saying? So it's like I think like Louisiana, they operate under like Napoleonic law. So they're business entities. But here's the thing, that also still yet means that they're not organic, which means they are a business structure. It would be kind of like saying, is a 508c1a, which is a private church, faith-based organization, is that a corporation? No, it's not. But it's a legal entity that's doing commerce from its particular structure. So it's not a corporation that has shareholders. Corporations usually have shareholders. Huh. Does the state of Florida have shareholders? Let's see. I'm curious. I've never asked that question. See if I can find anything. See what they got here. They'll probably say they've got board members or something similar. So if it's got shareholders, it's a corporation. But let's see here. Who I'm just gonna ask it straight up. Who are the so once again, the state of Florida itself does not have shareholders because it's not a corporation. Okay. So that means that you can't really just call it a corporation. Okay. But it is a legal. So what is the legal status of the state of Florida? What is the legal status of the state of Florida? Is a constituent state. Okay. Of the United States of America. Its legal system is based on common law. So it says based, not is. It says it's based on common law, which is interpreted through the case law, state of Florida, blah, blah, blah. The Constitution of Florida, ratified on this date, establishes their powers and duties or whatever else. Is there more specific about Florida's legal status or? Okay. Let's see what else. So they are a legal business entity, but the exact, they won't tell you. Why not? Why will they not tell us exactly what status it is? What is the state of it? Let's see, meaning of so a constituent state is a territory or constitutional entity that forms part of a sovereign state. Okay. It's an administrative division, but it doesn't tell you what type of business entity it is. What type of business entity is a constituent state? A constituent state is a state entity that constitutes a part of the sovereign state. A constituent state holds regional jurisdiction over a defined administrative territory within a sovereign state. So here they're telling you that state of basically the state of Florida state is the sovereign state, but the state of Florida is a constituent state that holds a regional jurisdiction over defined administrative territory. So same shared geographical area or political party. So what is a political party? Jeez. A group of persons organized to acquire and exercise political power. Okay. So what type of business entity is a political party? Once again, it's an organization. So, in other words, they created a political subdivision. They created a political subdivision operating in the maritime admiralty jurisdiction, subservient to the Constitution. Let me just double check. Go back. Are the states of the Union subject to maritime jurisdiction? Must be asking all the hard questions. It's moving real slow. So you're literally telling me there's no overview of that here. It's moved, it's gone. Really? That's hilarious. Ah, here it is. Yes, Chat GPT. States within the United States can be subject to maritime jurisdiction. Federal Admiralty and Maritime Jurisdiction. Okay. So they created a political subdivisions, these states that are subject or may be subject to the federal, which they have to be, jurisdiction. Federal jurisdiction corporation operates under maritime jurisdiction, but yet all of them are subservient to the Constitution. They then said, state of Florida, we're going to create this subdivision political party. That's why you can vote for them. It's political. Their exact business structure as an entity is unknown for all of them for their reasons. But they're an organization of some type. They listed off the 1 through 5 that they are going to be as a business entity. I've read the court cases where it says anywhere where a municipality or government operates as a corporation for profit, they can be then viewed legally as such. So whatever their true individual statuses are, they're not sharing. We know they're a political party. We know that they're a business entity. We know that they operate using the name in all capitalized letters, which under U.C.C., which they are party to, is conspicuous format, and it's the creation of a legal person. But what exactly is that legal person? We do not know. Some of them might be corporations, some of them might be LLCs, some of them might be whatever. Now, we already know what it is. I'm just showing you what we can prove. But I do know this, that you can look up a lot of their Dun and Bradstreet numbers. Matter of fact, before we go, one more time, one more again. Let's see if we can find it. Because remember, they said anywhere where you're operating as a business, you're a corporation. State of Florida, are they taxable? So let's see here. What is the state of Florida Dun and Bradstreet number? Oh, snap. Company profile, Dun and Bradstreet. The Dun and Bradstreet number for the state of Florida is not publicly listed in the sources I found. However, You can look up the Dun & Bradstreet tool on there, blah, blah, blah. Alternatively, you can contact the state of Florida. Department, States, Division of Corporations. So they have a corporation department. Once again, interesting. They're not a corporation, but they can make corporations. Hmm. Industry, executive, legislative, and other general government support. Public administration, their address, phone number, website, public administration. So we know it's them. Now they want you to pay the claim this company. I can claim the state of Florida. Well, we all know I can't. I don't have the information to prove that it's mine. But let's see. Contacts Ron DeSantis as governor. So we know we're talking about the right place. Contact 2 and 3, they don't give you access to. They want you to buy the report. I'm not going to do that. Financial statement. You got to buy it to unlock it so you can see how much they're making. Let's take a look at their corporate family. Oh, they got it hidden too. Oh, man. You can see what their credit is. Wait a minute. So you're saying the state of Florida has a credit report? Well, that's as far as I can take you guys because I'm not going to buy. Look, they got all their departments right here. They are a political party. The key principal is Ron DeSantis. Yeah, that's as far as I can go. It's their profile. Now to be fair, just because they have a profile and information up doesn't mean they have a DNB number. But generally, if you have a profile up, you do have a number. But they're doing business. They're letting you know. Company description is private. So they have a business report. So they're doing business. See what I'm talking about, guys? Phone number, private. Contacts, the additional ones are private. Fiscal, all that private, private, private. You have to buy the reports to get all the good information. I mean, I don't care. So like I don't need it. I already know what I know. But they're a business. And if they're a business, they're a non-living entity. If they're a non-living entity, they're not organic. If they have a business name, then they're a business. But what type of business? So in fact, they are a type of corporation. Though officially, much like my entity is referred to as an unincorporated association, it's not a corporation. So the states, as far as we can prove legally, are not incorporated, but they are doing business. They do have a business structure, which may, in fact, include a corporation, but they're not letting us know. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Enjoy. Badwolf's out for now.